Welfare Queen Ilhan Omar called me out for exposing the massive and widespread welfare fraud being perpetrated by the Somali community in Minnesota. The other day I made a video uncovering their latest $500 million fraud scheme that stole taxpayer money intended to help children with autism and funneled it to an Islamic terror group back in Somalia. This video already has over 1.5 million views, so I'll link it at the end if you haven't already seen it. But apparently this video also reached Ilhan Omar because she held a press conference where she addressed the situation and didn't condemn the Somali community for continuously stealing taxpayer money, but instead condemned people like me for the great crime of reporting about their fraud.
Brandon does such a great job exposing the intricacies of what we're talking about here. I would really like you to go to his channel. I'd really like for you to follow him at brandonleham.com.
As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start with this crazy clip of Ilhan Omar saying the purpose of the United States government is to serve the interests of Somalia.
jawaabteedu waxay ahayd dawladda Mareykanka waxay ka qabanaysaa wixii annaga aan dhahno dawladda Mareykanka qabo waa kalsoonidaas inaan isku qabno annaga Soomaali hadii aan nahay wadankan annaga ku nool wadankan wadankii aan annaga tax ka dhiibno waaye waa wadankii gabar idinka dhalatayne ee Congress ka fadhiso intii aniga aan Congress joogo wadanka Soomaaliya biyaheeda dad kaleeta iyo badeeda dad kale ma qaadanayaan wadanka Mareykankana kuma taageerayo dad kaleeta in annaga ayna dhacaan marka taas ka seexda reer Minnesota gabadhii Congress u dirsateen way idinka war haysaa sidaad idinka u dareemaysiin dantaas ay u dareemeen
In every video I make covering Somali fraud in Minnesota, and there's a handful at this point, I always have a new clip of Ilhan Omar clearly, explicitly, openly, and proudly stating she represents the interests of Somalia. And my question is, at what point do we take her at her word and denaturalize this woman, or at bare minimum, remove her from the United States House of Representatives? Ilhan Omar and the Somali community in Minnesota represents the single biggest mistake of our immigration policy over the last 80 years. We imported people from the third world into our country who don't want to be American, but want to live in America. I'm gonna say it again. They don't want to be American, but they want to live in America. The same values and cultures that failed to build Somalia into a functioning nation are the same values and cultures white liberals in Minnesota encourage them to maintain. They want to be Somalian in every single aspect, but do so in the safety of Minnesota. And instead of integrating into our society and expecting our government to do what's best for its citizens, they expect the government to represent their interests, which is the betterment of Somalia. But here's Ilhan freaking out about Donald Trump revoking temporary protective status for Somalis and vowing to engage in literal immigration fraud to protect them from deportation.
Watching this next part can be a little disturbing, but more importantly is it's intriguing to see what's in the mindset of what these people are thinking. Great job, Brandon. Thank you for bringing us this fantastic reporting.
When the president tweets as if he has the authority to terminate temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota, even little kids in 8th grade know that that is not an authority that the president has and can wield. The other unlawful thing that our lawless president is claiming to do so is to terminate that status for only one state, which he has no authority to do so. So, for the 300 or so people that are impacted, that currently live in Minnesota and across the country, we see you and we stand with you, and we will make sure we do everything that we can to help make sure that your status is adjusted before March of 2026. Because you know and I know that there is nothing temporary about people's lives here in the United States.
Look how offended she is that the President of the United States would dare to deport Somalis who are illegally here and engaging in massive welfare fraud back to Somalia, the place that they claim to love. It's because it is not in the best interest of Somalia to deport the people who are robbing American taxpayer money and sending it back to enrich Somalia. They will do whatever is best for Somalia, whether that's stealing $350 million of welfare funds for hungry children, $500 million meant to help children with autism, or engaging in immigration fraud to make sure that their cash cow does not stop. Ilhan Omar married her own brother to circumvent immigration law. And she's offended that we look suspiciously upon people who break our laws to enter our country and then continue to break our laws by stealing money meant to help children and funnel it back to the place that they allegedly had to flee from. Oh yeah, how dare Donald Trump. She's only this openly entitled because, as she stated in the last clip, she believes the US government exists to serve the benefits of Somalis in Minnesota on behalf of Somalia, the country. But in this next clip, she puts her foot in her mouth and accidentally exposes the entire scam for why Somalis picked to live in Minneapolis.
But I want most Minnesotans to know this. Majority of us Somalis who are here, as my friend Ali said yesterday, most of us, this was not the first place we came when we came to the United States. We moved from Arlington, Virginia, and came here nearly 30 years ago. None of us decided to move to another state. My siblings and I and my dad, until he died, call Minnesota home. Minnesota is special. And I know almost every single elected Somali Minnesotan did not start out in Minnesota, but chose to come here, stay here, start families here.
So instead of the Somali diaspora living sparsely across the United States, where they would be forced to integrate and assimilate into American society, they chose to congregate in Minneapolis so they could create an enclave that acts as a satellite state for the nation of Somalia, where they can amass political power and elect representatives like Ilhan Omar, who will do exactly what she admitted in the first clip: work from within the United States system for the betterment of Somalia, where they could engage in the same backward cultural behavior of corruption and piracy that led to Somalia being a failed state, and use their political leverage as a voting bloc to force local and state politicians to turn a blind eye to their massive fraud. They have successfully weaponized white liberal guilt to force the acquiescence of their mission to benefit Somalia by any means necessary. So now if you want to win elections in Minneapolis or Minnesota, you need the Somali vote. And in order to get the Somali vote, you must vow to prioritize the interests of Somalia. Otherwise, they'll just install one of their own, like Ilhan Omar, who will do it. The latest mayoral race in Minneapolis was decided by leveraging a Somali clan war back in Somalia to split up the Somali vote in Minneapolis. You can't make this stuff up. Somali clan wars are deciding who the mayor of Minneapolis is. I truly believe in the exceptionalism of America. And because of that, I do believe that immigrants on an individual basis can integrate well into America, even from places like Somalia, but only if they're willing to completely repudiate the culture and customs from where they came and fully assimilate into the American way of life. They must be willing to become American at their core. But when 100,000 congregate into one city with the explicit intent on not assimilating and being encouraged not to assimilate by woke liberals who think that it's racist, we can't be surprised when the exact same things that made Somalia unlivable start happening here. It's the same problem with Dearborn, Michigan. You can't flee from a radical Islamic Sharia country and then set one up here in the heart of America. But here's where Ilhan says the problem isn't the Somalis who are perpetually committing welfare fraud. I'm the problem for making it known that's what they're doing.
In this country, we do not blame the lawlessness of an individual on a whole community. Because if you believe in law and order, you understand that if a person commits a crime, they face justice. And that you don't put that crime on a whole community. What we also know is that there is not a single evidence that the president or his coonies have put forth that there are any single resource from taxpayers in Minnesota that has gone to aid and abet terrorism. That language is dangerous. That language puts the lives of Somalis not only in Minnesota, but across the country in danger. And if the president believed that and he had evidence, he would take people to court.
F around and find out. Brandon Leham did a fantastic job exposing the corruption in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And this Congressman Ilhan Omar is responsible for much of it, and she is on her way out. Adios tacos is all I can say. Thanks again to everybody. We'll see you on the next one.